everybody. Today we are debating flat Earth versus globe Earth, and we are starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate. This is going to be a fun one, folks, as we have two experienced debaters here today for a good old flat Earth debate. We have Darryl with us for the first time. Glad to have you here for the very first time, Darryl. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And we have Wotan back again. Glad to have you, Wotan.
How you doing? Glad to be here again.
Glad to have you. And if it's your first time here, I want to remind you to consider hitting that subscribe button as we are very excited for some upcoming debates that we have coming up. In fact, this is one that's been in the months in the making. We've been just planning this out for a long time. It will be live and in person in Texas. So this is going to be Inspiring Philosophy's Mike Jones taking on Matt Dillahunty on whether or not there are good reasons to believe in a God. That's coming up next month. So don't forget to hit that little notification bell if you want reminders of debates like those. And very excited, folks. This one's going to be epic. It's going to be just basically a flexible opening statement from Darryl. He's going to go kind of give his main arguments. And then from there, Wotan is ready to go right into open discussion. So we are very happy to have these guys here. They are both linked in the description. So that way, if you're listening, you're like, I like that. I want to hear more from these guys. You can click on their links that are just conveniently located down there in the description box, waiting for you. And with that, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot those into the live chat. I will pull your questions out, and we'll try to get through as many as we can during the Q&A. So with that, very, as I said, honored to have both of you guys here. Thanks so much. And Darryl, I've got the clock set. This is just like I said, I can give you like a heads up at 10 minutes and it's flexible. So, take whatever you need after that, but just to let you know where you are. And the floor is
Okay,
all yours.
sounds good. Well, my name is Darryl E. Berry Jr. I've been researching various subjects of interest, a lot of metaphysical research and things like that. I became aware that people believed in the flat Earth, I guess, about 2 or 3 years ago, and I looked into it, and of course, found various holes in it. Um, so basically, what I'll do today is present. I basically prepared 2 points. I'm fine discussing things other than that, but basically, what I would like to do is present 2 points. One, the first point would be about the fact that we can see the globe. We have technology today where we can put people into outer space on space stations and things, and we can indirectly perceive the globe as far as satellites that we have in orbit that's taking pictures of the globe. So the first thing I'll present is discussion of the satellites that we have in orbit, as well as some of the pictures that we've received from these satellites, as well as some of the verification that I found that somebody did based upon these satellites. At least, well, two points of verification that was made upon these images from these satellites. The second point I would like to make is about solar eclipses. So I've heard flat Earth people or concave or convex or whatever people say that, well, the frequency of a solar eclipse is just a frequency thing that you can time. But I've never seen them address the fact that solar eclipses have the shadow has a certain size. The shadow moves across the Earth in a certain pattern. And I'll talk about the fact, like if you look at this globe here, the pattern that the shadow moves across the Earth matches a shadow moving across a globe. Anybody can take a basketball or anything and put a shadow on it. Let's say you have a light source and you have the basketball here, and you'll notice that depending on where the shadow is on the ball, because the curvature of the ball, the shadow will seem skewed at certain points. It'll sort of spread out on apparently for the distance on the side of the basketball. And the same thing happens on the globe. So not only is the frequency of a solar eclipse evidence, but more specifically the size of the shadow, the placement of the shadow, how quickly the shadow moves, all fitting the placement of a shadow on the globe. And Another thing I would like to do is actually hear actually any evidence that he has of a flat Earth. Like I've observed flat Earth debates before, and I've debated with flat Earthers before, and I noticed they consistently want to like ask about NASA or ask us to prove this or prove that. I would like to hear what actual evidence or proof he has for a globe. I mean, for a flat Earth. I've never seen one, so hopefully he can actually present evidence rather than just asking me questions and actually present some solid proof like I'll do. So what I'll do is I'll present evidence to back up my claims and not just ask him questions. And I'll see if he's able to do the same, and I'll wait for him to actually present some positive evidence or proof and something to back it up. Um, I, I've spent a bit of time researching flat Earth. I've found that a lot of flat Earth people come in, um, post on my YouTube and then run away. So I kind of removed most of my videos, at least not removed them, but unshown them. But I did add back a series, a documentary that I call the Five Principles of Flat Earth. And what I found, I have my reasons for debating, and one of my reasons is just confirming the principles I've observed in disputing or debating flat earthers and observing their debates and seeing their arguments. I've observed, based upon my observation, that there's basically five different principles that flat earth or concave earth or convex earth people uh, 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 touch upon or exemplify in their position. One of them is just stupidity. Some of them notice they just, they just don't know. They just don't, apparently they don't have the capacity to know. Some of them is just ignorance. And these are some of the people who, um, after they learn a bit of information, they change from being a flat earther. They just don't have the necessary information. Some of them is denial. They just don't want to know. They've stuck to their position and they don't want to hear anything else. Some is delusion. They believe in whatever fanciful thing, like there's some kind of army blocking Antarctica, and that's what they want to believe, and no evidence will change them. And some is just laziness. They just are unwilling to put forth the effort to actually do a valid experiment or to actually test the claims that they make or test the claims that whoever makes to see if it's right. So you can go to my YouTube channel and see those, and I'll be listening to what he says and see which one of those he falls into, or maybe there's a sixth that comes up. You could also find more information from me at my website, darrylleberryjr.com, DARRYLEBERRYGR.com. And that's a bit about me and the 2 points I'll make, and that I'll be interested in hearing actual points he makes or proof or evidence of the flat earth. And I think that pretty much sums up my opening.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Darryl. And with that, we will go right into the open discussion, folks. So, very excited for this. And, gentlemen, the floor is all yours for dialogue.
So, first point that he made was about that we have images and video of the Earth. I mean, I have in my, if you look in the description of the video, I have the link to when you just Google satellites in space. It is the most laughably fake bullshit that you've ever seen in your entire life. And if any single person believes any single image in the Google search of a satellite in space, you're just the most deluded human being on the face of the earth, and there's really not even a single reason to even be having the discussion because they're just all fake. They're all CGI. There is no actual footage, no real image of an actual satellite in space. And if there is, then that means that there's another satellite taking another image of another satellite in space while they're going 17,000 miles an hour around this fake ball Earth. It's just then you have then what else do you have? You have images of the astronauts in space. So you just like I find it really funny. Like I had this belief where like, and it's not even a belief. It's just like an understanding of what the atheist mindset is. An atheist mindset is that they don't believe in a god, right? That's the atheist mindset, but they believe everything else, every single thing else, everything in the entire world that you can possibly believe in without any evidence whatsoever. That's what the atheist believes. The only thing that they don't believe in, the only thing that they're skeptical about, is the existence of God. Everything else, there is no skepticism whatsoever. They believe 9/11, the Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, of fake images of space, fake pictures of the ball Earth, the moon landings, Gulf of Tonkin. The list goes on and on and on and on. I can name thousands and thousands of different things which we know are completely fake, and they just automatically believe it based on no evidence. They just believe everything that is, as long as it's on TV, they just believe it. So this NASA footage, you just automatically just believe it. You just take it for granted that it's real without any skepticism whatsoever, without even looking into the history of NASA, without even looking into, like how they faked it, or like you look at the images of the ISS, you see the graphical, the fakery that they're doing with the green screen technology, or with whatever they're doing, some kind of VR bullshit, whatever the hell they're using in space. You can obviously see that what they're doing is fake. It's not real. Okay, you see one image of a guy literally pulling a string. He's pulling a string behind the lady's shirt because she was spinning around in a certain way, and you seen the guy pull a string behind her that was invisible, that wasn't there. You couldn't see the string, but you could see him pulling something, and then you see her pants get pulled up towards where he was pulling. So that means that there was something there. There was a string there or something, right? And then you see him turn the other way towards where he was pulling the string. So that means that it's fake. That absolutely means that they're using some strings in their ISS footage to fake them being in space. So you just automatically believe. You just auto believe everything. That's the atheist. Auto believe every single thing that's on TV. Hey, I see it on TV. It must be real. That's the atheist position. That's it's so that's it. That's your first question to me, is just, the footage that we see on TV is real.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. So what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and am I able to present on this thing? I show my
Yes,
screen.
you bet.
All right, one moment here. So this is my first time on this program here, on this Zoom. Let me see here. Share screen, and here we go. I think that's good right there.
You
Okay,
bet.
so the first one I'll talk about is the Himawari 8 satellite. So that's one of my favorite satellites because of the very clear images that it takes. So this is the Himawari 8 is a Japanese satellite, and it has a very advanced camera on it called the HRI, and to me the AHI, and it can take basically the advanced Himawari imager. And going to this next tab here, my understanding from this website is is far enough away that it can take from its position, it can take a scan of the entire Earth from that one position. So over the course of 10 minutes, it scans the entire Earth from that one image, and it can make a full image of the Earth from that one distance. So basically, satellites that are closest to the Earth, they have to go around the Earth several times and take scans of that area, and then piece them all together. But my understanding is this is the first satellite that's in orbit far enough away, I think about 20,000 miles away, that it can, from its one position, they can see the whole Earth at one time. And so if you were to go to this link right here, it will show you images of that it takes, images of the Earth, and I'll go ahead and open one right now. As a matter of fact, I'll put these links in the chat so y'all can see them. So this is the first link where it talks about the Himawari a bit. Here's the second one where it gives more information about how it works. I don't know if that one posted.
I can also put those links in the description if you'd like.
Okay, awesome. I'll send them all to you.
You bet.
And this one is a website where you can go and get the actual images from the Himawari. And so this is one example here. Now, one of the things that I've seen, like you said earlier, it's all fake. And he said to the effect that that people just believe it. But one thing I've done is I've looked around and I found a video by this guy here. And I don't know if they can hear it if I play it. Would you need to play it so they can hear it? It's just like a 6-minute video, and it'll illustrate my point. Should I give you this link and you can play it, or if I played it here, would they hear it?
Let's see. They won't actually hear it.
Okay.
I
Let
can.
me send the link to you, and you can play it for them. Okay, so I have to stop sharing first. So let me stop sharing and chat. There's that link here. So you can play that video in just 6 minutes, and it'll illustrate the point that I'm saying, and then I'll talk behind it a little bit.
Gotcha. If there were any independent points distinct from this video, Wotan, that you want to address while I pull this up, feel free. Otherwise,
Certainly. So
if you can
so basically,
if you can email me the link, Darryl, actually, just
certainly.
because. Awesome. Thanks so much.
So basically, just the independent, I guess, narrative behind it would be that we have satellites that take pictures of the Earth, and we're on the Earth. So it's pretty simple logic and reasoning and application behind it. You simply take the satellite photo that's claimed to be a picture of the Earth at this particular time, at this particular location. And if you're at that location, or if you know someone at that location, um, go ahead and see if the satellite images match. And one of the things that we can see very easily from space in the picture is the cloud formations, the weather patterns. So basically, what this guy did is he lives in Australia, and the Japanese satellite Himari 8, it's in a geosynchronous orbit, so it pretty much stays over that same location of the Earth, just going around the Earth with the spin of the Earth. So it's constantly taking pictures of that same part of the globe at different periods of time. And as we know, looking at the sky, it doesn't stay the same every day and every hour or every day. It's
So I
cloudy at
have
this
some
time, and it's
rebuttals. I mean, I don't know how long you can keep going.
What,
well,
Can
I'm
I
just
butt
I
in?
guess just giving some background while he's pulling up the
Yeah,
video. I
it's like
emailed him
I
the
know what you're
video.
gonna say before you're gonna say it. I
what,
know all the arguments already.
one
So
sec,
Okay, go.
just to
But I still
That's interesting.
just to just to be sure, because last we've gotten like counterfeit or not counterfeit, copyright, not strikes, but what's the word I'm looking for?
copyright strike.
You don't think that this person would mind if I show their video, right?
Well, I don't know the person personally. Um, I see that, he has like about 1,300 views on the video, so it's not like he's a major corporation. My understanding is he's just an individual person. He
Okay.
has 1,000 subscribers, so I really don't think it'll be an issue. But again, I don't know him personally, so I can't say officially. But
I'm willing
I've
to.
I've talked about it in my videos. I haven't had any strikes. I've shared it in my videos and discussions, so
Good enough
I
for
haven't
me.
had any problems with it.
That works for me. I'm gonna do full screen, and then um, if we Wotan, if you want to address anything that's independent of this video, I'm just because I know that it's easy to forget a lot of the content as it moves fast. I'm okay with you doing that as long as we can. Maybe what we'll do is we'll let you quick address those, and then we'll go to this video, and then we'll hopefully Daryl.
Well, I want to address some of the points that he made about the Himawari, and whatever this video is going to show is just not. It's going to be totally irrelevant.
Well,
So
let's give him a shot. I'm gonna show the video really quick, and then we'll come back because I do want to show it. We do appreciate the extra effort, and so I'm gonna show it, and then we'll come right back. Okay. Wotan. Just give me
Gad,
okay, give me 1 sec. Thanks for your patience.
Interesting. Himawari 8, or as I like to call it, Him Who Destroys Flat Earth 8. The satellite is in a geostationary orbit on my side of the Earth, sitting at about 22,000 miles or 35,000 kilometers away, and takes a scanned photograph of the face of the Earth every 10 minutes and is then uploaded to several websites around the world. It's a fairly hot topic in the globe Earth, flat Earth argument. The globe deniers claim the images are nothing but CGI, but I've already done several observations matching my local weather with real-time images from the satellite, and the images always match. This, for me, and for many other people, is conclusive
There's no audio, by the
evidence
way.
that the images
Yeah,
are
can't
in
hear you
fact
either.
real.
I'm having trouble.
I've finally done a new type of observation which I've wanted to do since I started doing these, and that is
actually-
visual time lapses. I'll show you a few of them in this.
I'm really sorry. I don't know if we're gonna be able to show the video because for some reason I'm looking at the screen, And what's playing is not capturing my screen capture. I can give this
That's
one
fine.
shot.
Well, why don't we do this? 'Cause for the sake of time, I could just go ahead and I'll share my screen and play it in a minute, and I'll just talk over it, and I'll
Okay,
just let you know what it's saying.
you
And
got it.
and everybody has the link in the channel; they can see it for themselves as well.
Okay,
So give me a moment. I'll share my screen again, and I'll just narrate it.
you bet. Thanks for your patience, folks. How embarrassing. I don't know what happened there, but
I know how it is things. All right, so let me share this again. And his channel's name, by the way, is Wade's Underworld. So please go ahead and subscribe to him and let him know, hey, thanks for letting us talk about your video. And I'm sure he'd appreciate that. So share screen. Boom. All right, so we're sharing again.
yep.
So name of the video is Himawari 8 Dual Time Lapse Cloud Matchup Globe Earth. It's about Wade's Underworld. And I'll go ahead and play it now and just narrate. So right there, he's like, that's interesting. Now, if you look at this little inset here, he's showing the fact that what he's seeing in the images is matching what he's seeing at his location. And I'll go through here and just narrate a bit what he's saying. So right now, he's just talking about the Himawari 8. He calls it him who destroys flat Earth 8. Is a satellite in a geosynchronistic orbit, about 22,000 miles away from the Earth. Takes a scan photograph of the Earth every 10 minutes, which is then uploaded to several websites, which one of the links to y'all. And here he's showing some details. Now, Flat Earthers claim that it's fake, but this person has done several different observations. So here's one image. The little dot is showing where he's at, and he's looking in various directions and matching up the cloud formations that we're seeing from the satellite image with his real life image, visual perceptions at that location.
I don't see
And
how
basically,
any of
like what
those look
this
the same
video
at all.
is. I didn't hear you, sir. What did you say?
I said those don't look the same at all.
Okay. I understand doesn't look the same to you. Maybe you want to look at it a bit more closely and
I mean, you want to go
get
back to the
the correct
frame
what
and
he's saying.
we can analyze it, and you can see that it doesn't look the same at all, instead of just saying that it is.
Well, for instance, so he's right here where the red dot is, and
Right.
you can see how. Are you able to see my mouse?
Right.
And you can see how northward there's these clouds here. And if you look at this window here where it says north, where you can see the clouds that he's referring to. So he's the red dot. Is clouds to the north. And this one that says north, he's looking to the north, and he's seeing in the clouds that's to the north. Now, if you look to the east, you'll see that there's not many clouds, but except a bit into the distance. And if you look at the east window, you'll see the same. There's not many clouds except very far in the distance. You can see a bit. You look to the west, there's not many clouds right there except a bit far into the distance. And the same thing you can see through the west is pretty clear. So the reason why it may not look like it's accurate to you is because you have to look at the orientation that he's looking at. So we're standing on the Earth. The satellite is looking from above the Earth down upon the Earth. But when we're standing on the Earth, we can look up, and then we could look horizontally, generally north, south, east, and west. So you have to look at the dot where he's standing. And again, to the north, you can see clouds right close by him. Those are these clouds right here in the north window. To the west and the east, you can see that there's not many clouds. Do you see the accuracy of that now?
Right. And you do know that the Himawari is taking all of their what they're doing is they're taking the data from weather balloons and then just wrapping it around the globe. And there was actually a YouTube video. There's a very pretty lengthy YouTube video with a guy. He literally backtraced all of these images, where you're getting them from. He did like a near forensic freaking
Well,
investigation. where
why don't we
into
do
where
this?
they get these images, and he found out that they're getting the images from known weather balloons that are going over the Earth. So, and then they're just graphically, with graphic art, they're just wrapping it around the globe.
Okay, well, I'm happy to see you present that evidence in your rebuttal. But you do acknowledge that that's
Well, I didn't
accurate.
know. Let's listen. I didn't know. Number one, I didn't know you were going to bring the Himawari points. I didn't know what points you're going to bring. So don't put the onus on me and say I need to bring this, rebuttal now, because I didn't know that you were going to come to this debate with the Himawari. So I don't even have that ready. And I seen that video, I don't know, a year or 2 years ago. So I don't even know where to look for it online if I found it. But I know for a fact that I seen it, and he did a pretty lengthy investigation into how NASA is getting their data from these known weather balloons, which NASA does. They're the world's number one. They're the world's leading buyer of helium, which that's all they're doing is just putting all these weather balloons into the atmosphere. So they're getting their data from these weather balloons, which they own, and then
Let me
shipping it
stop you
around the
here.
globe.
Let me stop you here. One of the criticisms you made was that we just believe things with no evidence. And here you're making a claim and you just admitted that you have no evidence for it. So
No,
I'm
the
going to
guy did an
discard everything you're
investigation. Not that
saying.
the guy did
I'm
an
going to discard
investigation to it,
everything.
and he showed on the YouTube video each and step by
What you can,
step. He
I'm
went
not going to
back and he
accept anything
showed.
you're saying because you have no evidence. What you can do
You
is
don't
we can
you don't
come back
accept anything.
another
I don't
time.
accept anything
We
you're
could come
saying
back
then.
another time and you
I
can
don't
bring your
accept anything
evidence.
that
Wotan, one sec.
you're saying then. Wow, look
I'm
at that tip for
presenting
tat.
evidence
Wow,
right
wow,
now. I'm
wonderful. You
presenting
want to go
evidence
this
right
route?
now.
You
Now, if
want to
you
go
need to
this
take
route?
some time to look for your video, that's
Let's go
fine.
that route.
But
That's really
but
fun.
but
I
yeah,
don't
right
accept
now
what
you're
you're saying.
just
You don't accept what
saying.
I'm saying. Wow, what a wonderful debate this is.
So
Okay,
Wotan,
well, you
forgive
can
me.
look at it that way if you want. That's fine. But let me go ahead and keep
Forgive me,
going through the
Wotan.
video.
I just
So right,
go
so
ahead.
and again, we just talked about that, and you acknowledged that was accurate, and this continues.
It's accurate
So
because they're taking their data from weather.
Wotan, forgive me. I just muted you again, just to try to let Darryl make his case here. So I
thank
promise
you, sir.
we'll come right back to you, Wotan. I just want to give Darryl a chance here.
Right. So again, so you acknowledged that was accurate. So and the same thing. So I mean, really, that
Right,
proves
it's
my
accurate, but that
point
doesn't mean that it's
right
round.
there.
That doesn't
So
mean that the
Hold on.
Himawari is looking at an image of the Earth.
Uh,
It's accurate because they're taking their data from weather balloons. So of course it's going to be accurate. If it wasn't accurate, you know how easy it would be to debunk it? You would just be like, oh wow, look, it's raining over here, and the Himawari shows that it's clear as day. So how does that work? That
All right.
would be so easy
All right,
if it wasn't
Wotan.
accurate.
and that,
We
Of
got
that's
course
pretty
it's
much
going to
my
be
point.
accurate.
We got it, Wotan. Okay, let's give Darryl a chance to respond to that, and then I promise we can come back to you. But I don't know if he was even.
That's not even an argument. Of course it's going to
Well,
be
hold on a
accurate.
second. I don't even know if he was done with his point. So let's give Darryl a chance to. Are you? Hopefully you were.
I mean, my point is done. My point is that he admitted that is accurate. Now, at first he said it's not accurate, and I'm just believing him. And when I
No,
pointed
I
out
just
in
said the
detail,
clouds didn't look.
Wotan, you're on mute again. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
so first I pointed out, first he said it's not accurate, and then I pointed out, okay, let's look at it more closely. He said, pause it, show me, and I showed him. Then he said, oh, it is accurate, but I saw in the video that they're taking it from weather balloons. He himself said at the start of his, I guess you can call it his opening, you all believe stuff with no evidence. And he just told us, I don't know where this video is at. It's been too long to look at, so I can't pull it up now. I wasn't ready to pull it up, but this is what I saw. So again, under your claim, we're not supposed to accept things without evidence. So I'm not going to accept anything you say right now because you're not presenting any evidence. I presented some evidence. You don't accept the evidence. If you think it's based upon a weather balloon, show me evidence of that. If you're unable to do that, then I guess we need to move
So you
on.
want me to go on
I'm ready
YouTube
for
right
your
now, do
point.
a YouTube search of this guy's video and show you the video. That's exactly what you want me to do. Of this video that I
All
seen 2
I'm
years ago.
asking you to do is to back up what you're saying. This you're saying is
But
coming
that's what I would
from
have to
weather
do.
balloons.
That's what I would have to do.
But
So I have to go on YouTube right now. I have to search right now the video, and I have to take about 10 minutes out of my time to see where this guy's video was from 2 years ago and see if that's the video. I have to look at the video a little bit to see if it's the right one, and then I got to link it into the chat, screen share. That's exactly what you want me to do. Otherwise, and then you're gonna say that's like victory for the globe. That's it. Look,
well,
I
put it like
came with
this.
an argument. I came with an argument that I wasn't prepared for because I had no idea what points you were gonna bring. I had no idea what you were gonna bring to the table. So you bring this Himawari bullshit, and now I need to disprove the Himawari, but I didn't know that you were gonna like. This is why we need to set up the points that we're gonna bring before we start debating, so that we can be more prepared for each other, right? Because
Okay.
I wasn't prepared for this Himawari thing. I don't know where this guy's video is, but he did a like a near forensic back tracing into the history of where NASA
Well,
is
again,
getting these
you're not
images, and
presenting
he
anything, so
absolutely proved that Himawari is getting all of their data from weather balloons.
okay. Well, I mean, I'm happy to come back another time when you have time to get that evidence or whatever. If you want, you could present your point right now. And again, I'm not prepared for what you have to say as well. So, what point do you
Okay,
want to present for the flat Earth? And I'll see if I can counteract that.
okay, prove water sticking to the exterior of a shape by gravity alone.
Okay, so I don't know if we're clear. Moderator, he was supposed to present a proof of the flat Earth, and he just asked me about the globe. Are you able to
Right,
help
because the
him
burden
out?
of proof is on you.
Right.
So, I'm under the usually the way we have the debates for flat versus globe is we it's true that I mean let's see, how do I say this? It's I mean in an ideal world both debaters would bring a positive case for their position. However, like I can't really I mean like obviously that would be the most persuasive from both sides is making a positive case for their own position and then showing how, let's say, the other side isn't as good as explaining these evidences. But I can't, like, ultimately, like, it's up to Wotan, like, what he wants to say.
No, the burden of proof is on the globe. Sorry, though you go outside, the horizon is flat. You don't feel anything spinning. Therefore, the baseline assumption that you can possibly make, well, actually, the baseline conclusion that you can possibly make from those two observations, requiring zero assumption, literally zero assumption. There are no assumptions to be made. If you go outside, you see the horizon is flat. If you go up 128,000 feet up into the air, the horizon is flat and at eye level. You do not feel anything spinning. Therefore, the baseline conclusion that requires absolutely zero assumptions whatsoever is that the earth is flat and motionless. If you're going to say that we're on a triangle, if you're going to say that we're on a ball, if you're going to say we're on a square, if you're going to say we're on a diamond, if you're going to say we're on a star shaped planet, it doesn't matter. If you're going to say anything else besides that the earth is flat and motionless, the burden of proof is on you. Period. I don't need to prove shit.
And to see if I can parse out the points that you're making from what you said, your evidence or proof that the Earth is flat is because the horizon is flat and we can't feel the Earth spinning. Is that correct?
That's the conclusion that can be, that doesn't, no, that doesn't absolutely 100% mean that it is flat and motionless, but that is the baseline conclusion that can be possibly made from those two observations. There is no simpler conclusion. It could be something
Perhaps if you
else.
could
It
just
could like you understand, Darryl. Like it could be that we're on the top of a pyramid. But there's like the top of a pyramid is flat, but the rest on the bottom is a pyramid. You know, it could be that too. It could be whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm not saying that it absolutely proves that the Earth is flat, motionless. On the surface, any other shape, any other whatever you want to say it. If you want anything else besides a flat, motionless plane, the burden of proof is on you. You have to prove it.
I see. Well, I mean, so far, if you don't have any definite proof, if you have just a surmising like a general conclusion, I mean, it's really nothing for me to refute. I mean,
You're saying that we're on a round spinning, flying, shooting, soaring, gyrating, wobbling, tilting, elliptically orbiting, ball Earth, flying around the sun 66,600 miles an hour, going around the galaxy 555,000 miles an hour, flying through the universe 2.5 million miles an hour. The burden of proof is on you. You got to prove it. You got to come out with these wild claims. You have to prove it.
okay.
Flying, shooting
Well,
66,600 miles an hour, million miles, fairy tales, dark matter, dark energy, to the exterior of a shade by gravity alone. The burden of proof is on you. I don't need to prove shit.
I see.
Sorry.
And I could be misunderstanding. Your position is not that the Earth is flat. Like you don't hold that
It is that
position.
it's flat.
Okay.
No, it is. It's
So
flat.
this is what I hear you saying. Like I'm saying that the Earth is a globe, and I presented some evidence to back that up and some observations to back that up. You're saying that it's flat, but for some reason you're saying you don't have to present anything. That doesn't make any sense. That's not logical. At least to me, that's not
Because that's the
logical.
baseline conclusion that can be possibly made. I don't need to prove anything. It is an
Okay.
observed phenomenon. It is a naturally observed phenomenon. Every single human being on the face of the earth that has ever lived on Earth sees the Earth as flat and motionless. You understand that? The horizon is flat.
Mm,
120,000 feet up in the air, it's flat. But then everything past 120,000 feet, whoops, at NASA images, fake NASA images, or the Red Bull, the Red Bull jump, fake, what do you call, globe lens, fisheye lens. It's all fake. Google Earth from space, the fakest images you could ever possibly find in the history of the Earth, the history of the world. You just Google Earth from space and Google it. It's the fakest thing you could ever possibly see. And actually, I got into a debate with a guy on the Non Sequitur show, a guy who was a he was like a graphic designer. He was also like a photographic expert, and he had this forensic way of looking at images and seeing whether they're real or not. And then one of the image of the Earth, showed that that it was consistent, that it was real. And then I showed another image afterwards, and then it showed that it was fake. So it's do you understand? So you could fake the image. You could fake that method of trying to find out whether these images are real or not. You know what I'm saying? So images alone don't prove anything to me. Sorry, they don't. We need scientific experiments. Do you have any scientific experiments to prove that water can adhere to the exterior of a shape by gravity alone? No. Do you have any experiments proving that the Earth can hold an atmosphere against the vacuum of space? No. And then I got into a debate with what's his name, Fight the Flat Earth, and he shows me a demonstration of a nuclear fusion reaction holding ionized gas around the reactor by a force known as electromagnetism. So when you look into electromagnetism, you find out that first of all, he's using a force which is totally different than gravity, completely different in every way, shape, and form. Electromagnetism is not gravity. Gravity is not electromagnetism. They're two completely and utterly different forces. Number one. So he's trying to prove that gravity can do something by using a completely and utterly different force other than gravity that has nothing to do with gravity whatsoever. Nothing. So, and also, not only is electromagnetism not gravity in way, shape, function, form, nothing whatsoever to do with gravity. The electromagnetism, I looked it up, is 10 to the 36 times more powerful than gravity. How can you possibly be so disingenuous, dishonest, and scientifically illiterate to try to prove that gravity can do something that is 10 to the 36 times more powerful in it that can do? That's like trying to say that an earthworm can do what Superman Prime can do. Superman Prime is like a god version of Superman. That's not even canon in DC. It's like a god version of Superman. It's like saying, yeah, this earthworm can do what Superman Prime can do. Why? Because they're both living beings. But the one is completely one is like 10 to the 36 times. The mind can't even conceive of these numbers. There are 10 to the 20 observable stars in the universe. Do you know that? 10 to the 20 observable stars. So this is it's a sextillion times more observable stars in the universe, more powerful than gravity. It's just ridiculous. How could you use electromagnetism to prove anything that what gravity's doing? It's just disingenuous. It's just bullshit. The globers have no evidence. The globers have no model. They have to invent dark matter to take account of their model.
Just to be sure.
It's just bullshit.
Just to be sure that Darryl's got plenty of time to respond. It's been.
Go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, at this point, there's really nothing to respond to. You said that you look at the horizon, it looks flat. We can't feel the spinning. So you conclude as a base conclusion that it's flat, no evidence presented. You said that the images are fake, no evidence presented. You're talking about electromagnetism and gravity and the strength of each, no evidence presented. So you still didn't present anything. So, apparently you want me to just believe these things when you yourself said that's not a proper way to address just believing without evidence. And here you're
Well,
already
I did
saying a
prove
whole
that
bunch
one.
of
I did
things.
prove that one of the
Hold on,
images
one
that they had
Wotan.
was fake.
Wotan.
Where?
Let's.
I didn't see it. What evidence did you present that one of the
Now I got
images?
to go to this website and we got to go back.
No, hold on. You just said you proved that it's fake. But
I
then
did
when I asked
on
you,
the Non Sequitur
obviously,
show, which was like
we're
2
not
years
talking
ago.
about
Yes,
the
I
non
did.
sequitur show. We're talking about right here, right now. Me and you.
Right,
That's
okay.
what we're
Well,
talking
again,
about
I need
right
to
now.
bring up another point that I didn't know you were going to bring up, and I need to look back
That's what
and
you
got to see
said.
if I have
You
it.
said the images are fake. That's what you said.
Right, they are.
So you didn't present any evidence, so I'm not going to believe you. So yeah, you didn't present any evidence yet. You didn't present anything except just a general.
You don't have any
conclusion you
scientific
draw.
experiments to prove that it's round, buddy. So all this shit is
Well,
bullshit.
okay,
It
let me
all
go
has
to my
to be
next
fake.
point then. Let me go to
It
my
all
next
has
point
to
and
be
I'll.
fake.
Let me
If
go
you
to
don't
my
have
next.
any scientific experiments to prove anything, then it has to be fake.
Let's
That's
go.
it. That's the conclusion.
Let's
I'm sorry.
let's give Darryl a chance to go to his next point.
Well, I'll go to my next point then, since you apparently have no evidence present for your position. So
I don't need evidence.
I hear you. Don't need
I know.
evidence. That's
I
interesting.
know. I know. All evidence is
Don't
garbage anyway.
need evidence. We do, but apparently it's quite
No, I
interesting. So
don't. Sorry.
let's. I hear you, sir. So the
Obviously,
next point
observe
is
the Martian
oh,
is flat.
and by the way, just so people can know, because I already had it pulled up, but if anybody wants another link as well that shows another satellite actually took a picture of the Tiananmen explosion. So if anybody want to look at that as well, another satellite took a image of an explosion that was seen from space. But that's just something else y'all could look at as well. But I had that prepared, but we already got that point. So the next thing is the solar eclipse. So I like astronomy. I've actually gotten a bit more into astronomy since I heard about the flat Earth, because one of the things that flat Earth people said that actually was true in regards to me. I didn't really do a lot of looking myself. A few years ago, he would have been right. I didn't really go out and get my own telescope and see a solar eclipse myself or things like that. So what I did is I bought my own telescope, and I've seen Mars through my own telescope. I've seen Jupiter through my own telescope. I've seen Saturn through a large telescope. And these actual planets are not just lights. And another thing I've done was there was a solar eclipse back in 2017. I drove 3 hours to go see it, and I started to look into the nature of a solar eclipse. And what I found is that not only is the timing of a solar eclipse predictable, right? So somebody can say, well, it's flat and it's just timed, but also the shape of the shadow, the positioning of the shadow, where it's at on the globe, the movement of the shadow, right? And where it's at every single position. Now, what I've done was I went to the Wayback Machine, and if you look at the screen, you can see at the top, this is from February 19th of 2011. So I went to the history of the internet, and you can see on February 19th, 2011, was predicted, and I'll read this right here. It says August 21st, total solar eclipse. This is a rare, once in a lifetime event for viewers in the United States. And let me put this link for you as well. So it says, this is a rare once in a lifetime event for viewers in the United States. The last total solar eclipse visible in the United States occurred in 1979, and the next one will not take place until 2024. The path of the totality will begin in the Pacific Ocean and travel through the United States. The total eclipse will be visible in parts of Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, Missouri, and Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, and South Carolina before ending in the Atlantic Ocean. A partial eclipse will be visible in most of North America and parts of Southern America. You could also find this PDF file. I have to download this again, and I'll show it to you momentarily. Moment here. So this is a PDF file from before the eclipse, showing that the locations where we'll have complete shadow and things like that. From the actually from this was different. I'm sorry. This is a different eclipse I was going to talk about. Let me stick with the one. So staying with the solar eclipse. This is from timeanddate.com, August 21st, 2017. Now, if you look at this image, it shows that the shadow curves across the globe like that. And if you go a bit more closely, there's a website called zuberfree.fr, and it shows the exact size, shape, time, and you can zoom into this thing. It's extremely precise. Now, one thing that he said, a scientific experiment, one aspect, an important aspect of scientific experiments is observation. Another aspect of science is predictability. If I have this model based upon the globe Earth and a globe moon rotating around the Earth at a certain speed from a certain distance, which will make a certain size shadow, and the Earth is spinning at a certain speed at a certain angle, so on and so forth, then the shadow will be this size. It will be at this location if the solar eclipse happens at this exact time. People were able to make this calculation, and people came from around the world to the United States and went to these locations. And we found, and I was one of them, I found that according to this site, the shadow was exactly where they said it would be at the exact time it would be. And if you recall, for that solar event, it was covered on the news. There was news channels all across the path of the totality of the solar eclipse. There are also people. Now, if you look at this diagram, this dark line here is the totality. This is where it's complete darkness. And then you have a partial darkness when you get a bit farther away. Every single person who watched this event along the entire path was able to verify that the solar eclipse happened at that location. The the uh, 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 the amount of totality of the solar eclipse perfectly matched predictions. Being that this is based upon the globe, this is further evidence that the globe is factual and real. Now, if someone takes the position that the Earth is a globe and the moon is a globe and calculates that and says, okay, if the Earth is a globe and the moon is a globe, and because the Earth is spinning, the shadow will look curved like this. And then we actually go there to look at the solar eclipse, and it's straight or something like, I've seen images of flat Earths where they say the moon and the sun is just rotating around. That causes all kind of problems given the size of the shadow. But let's just talk about the length of it. I don't see why it would curve like that. But if they say it's going to curve like this, and we go there and it actually curves like this, that's further evidence of the curvature of the globe, because this movement, size, shape of the shadow does not work except for on the globe. Now, if we go to timeanddate.com, this gets even more pronounced depending on where the solar eclipse is. So let me give you some examples of what I mean. Mm, So I'm just going to click here, go to eclipses. And so here's one coming up right here, annular solar eclipse. So if we look at the size of this eclipse again, as I was saying earlier, we're looking at a globe. And actually, let me stop sharing so y'all could see. Actually, so I'll go back to my globe. And you can see how skewed the shadow is right there. How the shadow is skewing because of it's skewing because the Earth is a globe. And anybody can do this experiment and take a basketball and just take, let's say, a golf ball. And if you move that golf, if you have a light source and you take that shadow of that golf ball on that basketball and move that golf ball around, you'll see when you get towards the top of the basketball where it's more curved away from you, the shadow will, if you're looking at the top of the basketball, it will seem to skew back, just like how it's doing with the shadow of the moon on the globe. So again, anybody could do this and take a basketball and see that you can see how the shadow is skewing like that because of the curvature of the Earth. Again, for the evidence, not only is it timed exactly when it should be, but anybody who's in Australia will be able to see the partial eclipse in northern Australia. Anybody who's in those smaller areas will be able to see the total solar eclipse. And this happens again and again and again for every single prediction of a solar eclipse. One challenge that I put forth towards flat earthers, if your position is that the flat earth is true and factual, and if your position is that you all are more accurate than NASA and so on and so forth, then what I would like you to do is for you to predict, let's say, the solar eclipses for next year. You predict the lunar eclipses for next year. You predict exactly where the sun and moon will be, and you demonstrate how those things are happening with your flat earth model. If you can do that, if you can predict the position of the solar eclipse, the shape of the shadow, how long the shadow will be there, how fast the shadow will move across the earth, if you can do that more accurately than we can do from the globe, then you have something. But at this point, you don't. So that's my position. And again, to recap, simply looking at the fact that we could predict solar eclipses decades into the future, not only when they're going to happen, but where, not just where they're going to happen, but the size of the shadow, how the shadow is going to be shaped, how long the shadow is going to take to move across the globe. These websites are there. You can pull this up yourself and see when the future solar eclipse will be. You can travel to that location like I did, see that it matches perfectly. And again, thousands and thousands of people were there for that solar eclipse in 2017. News people, scientific people, lay people, and confirmed that it happened right when they said it was going to happen, right when they said it was going to happen, based upon the model of a globe Earth with the globe moon rotating around the Earth at a certain speed, with a Earth with a certain rotation. It all matches up. So unless you can demonstrate that for some reason I didn't see the solar eclipse right there, I did. Or you can show this is the flat Earth model, this is where the moon is, I'll predict the next solar eclipse, and it'll be more accurate than that. Then this is very definite proof that the Earth is a globe. So that's my point. I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
So the size of the shadow is how what's the size of the shadow?
Okay, certainly. So let me bring it up again. What I'll do is go on myself.
The width of the shadow in miles?
Let's see here.
The width, not the length, like the width
The
of it.
width, let me see. So the shadow will be well, I would have to search somewhere else to get the miles, the exact miles.
It's approximately 200 miles from my understanding.
Okay, where's your evidence for that, or where did you find
That's what
that?
they say that it is.
Okay, where
It's
did you
not
find that
2,000
from?
miles. It's
Okay,
not
where did you
2,000 miles, right?
where
2,000
did
miles.
you
That would be like almost the entire width of the United States. United States, right?
I'm not really hearing the point that you're making. Would you just say clearly
Well,
what you're
understand what
trying
I'm
to
trying to
say?
say. The diameter of the moon, I have it right here, is 2,158 miles. And like you can't have a shadow that's smaller than the object that's casting the shadow. So I would love to know how you
Oh,
have a shadow which is 10 times the width of of the object that's in the shadow.
I see what you're saying. Your rebuttal to this position is that the shadow of the shadow on the Earth is smaller than the size of the moon, and you're saying that's impossible. Okay, okay. Well, thank you for making a cogent rebuttal. Shadows of the moon. Okay, so let me go ahead and show that what you're saying is not accurate. So give me one moment here. It shouldn't take a moment for me to look it up real fast. Mm, What I'm doing now just to fill the air. There's several videos on YouTube where people did let's say they took a ball and they show that the shadow of the ball from the light of the sun is smaller than size of the ball because the sun is larger than the ball. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up some videos that will show these experiments and show ironically, unless you can show some evidence otherwise, because ironically, one of the things you said was about believing without evidence. I'm going to show you some evidence that shows that the shadow can be smaller. I would like you to show your evidence that were you basing your position that the shadow is impossible for the shadow to be smaller, and we can compare those two evidences. So why don't you do this now while I'm taking a moment to look for my evidence to show that the shadow can be smaller if you have a larger light source? Will you go ahead and show and get your evidence that shows that it's impossible for the shadow to be smaller, and we can compare our evidence? Mm, okay, and I found one. This is not the exact one I was looking for, but it seems to show the point. So I'll go ahead and show my screen real fast. So this is talking about eclipses, and I'm going to. So this is an experiment showing that if you have a larger light source, the shadow can be smaller. And this is a so if you look at this will be the equivalent of the moon right here. well, my mouse is right there. And this umbra will be the total, the area of total darkness from the solar eclipse. So this umbra will be equivalent to this line right here that you're saying is impossible to be to be that way because of the moon size. This little umbra, this dark line that we see right here, this is the line of what's called totality. If you're in this line, the moon will completely cover the sun. This matches again the what's called the umbra. Notice the umbra is smaller than the penumbra, which is when some light can overlap and is not total shadow, and it's also smaller than the object itself. So this is a very plain experiment that anybody can do. You could even take a ball outside. I was trying to find one that where the person actually took a ball outside and he had a paper and he moved the ball back and forth. But again, it's the same exact experiment. This one just doesn't have like a grid behind it where it's easier to see, but obviously you can see that the umbra is smaller. Um, so here's another example where you can see the uh, the difference. It looks like they're using uh, there we go. You can see how the umbra is smaller than the grape because the light source is bigger. And the same thing happens with the moon. Let's see if I can find a different one. Okay, here's another one here. So again, umbra. So this here is an exact, precise example of what's going on with the moon and the Earth. The umbra is the totality, which is smaller than the object, and the penumbra is outside the object. So where's your evidence that it's impossible for the shadow to be smaller? I've shown evidence that the shadow is always smaller if the light source is bigger. Where's your evidence that it's impossible for the shadow to be
Every
smaller?
single image you showed, the shadow is larger, always.
Okay, so show me what you mean.
All of them.
I mean, go ahead and show me exactly what you mean.
I'm going to
Like
hack into your
describe
computer.
exactly
I'm going
what
to
you
hack
mean.
into your computer and go back into the image, go back to
Oh,
any
I'm
image,
sorry.
and the shadow's
I
always
forgot
larger.
it wasn't sharing. Okay, show me exactly what you mean.
The shadow's larger.
Now, when I'm looking at this, the yellow circle seems smaller than the ball shadow to be larger. So I'm seeing a yellow circle here, where there's
The shadow here is larger. It's not smaller, like in the moon. It's not 10 times smaller. Is that 10 times smaller? Is that was it the anti-umbra? Is that 10 times smaller than the
oh, I
object, the
see what
way
you're
that
saying.
we observe?
All right, so this is the way it
Can you
works.
scale
So
that the way that it's happening with Earth?
certainly what you mean. Can I scale that? Is it scalable? Yes, it is scalable. Apparently this is not scalable, but again, right now you're changing your point.
No,
Your
no,
point was
I'm
that
not
the
changing
shadow
the
can't
point
be.
because that's what the observed phenomena is, that you're saying that the shadow is 10 times, over 10 times, more than 10 times smaller than the diameter of the moon. And you're showing examples where the shadow is not 10 times smaller than the object. So I
Okay, fair
just,
point. Fair
you're
point.
not,
Let me go
again, you're
ahead and
doing this thing like Fight the Flat Earth did with this electromagnetism garbage. You're not exactly demonstrating the observed phenomena.
fair point. Fair point. Let me find the try to find a video I was looking for that showed a smaller shadow. And I apologize. I was sure I had this video saved in my, but maybe I'm just overlooking the actual one. But I know some people might be listening that know the video I'm talking about, where the guy had the long pole and it was like a grid behind the pole. So if y'all want to help me out and put that video in chat to speed it up a bit, I'd appreciate it. But I'll take a moment to see if I can find it.
Just to let you know, folks, if you have a question, fire it into the live chat, and then we will read those questions at the end. Same thing, I always forget to say this. If you have a comment, if you want to make a comment during the question and answer, a super chat is a way to do that, where you can actually make a comment during Q&A, and also super chats go to the top of the list. But feel free to ask a question in any way you like, and we are excited to read those off. So thank you very much for that. And a reminder that both of our speakers are linked in the description. We've got, by the way, Wotan, as a side note, a fellow named Ohio News.Now Ohio is calling you out, Wotan. They want a piece of you. I don't know if you want to debate them, but just letting you know, it's always kind of juicy.
Yeah, never heard his name. I don't really know who he is, and I don't really care. Oh, thanks. I should start charging people like Nathan Thompson.
Wotan, very aggressive today, very sassy. So, well, maybe in the future. I don't know. Wotan's he's a little cranky today.
I'm all right, man. Yeah, it's pretty tough to get me angry. I'm not angry. This is just normal me. This is baseline.
Baseline Wotan today.
Yes, baseline Wotan.
But we are excited, folks. So let's see here.
Well, I don't want to hold this up too long. I may give the explanation so that they can do the experiment themselves. But let me try. I'll do one more search here. Channel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to go to a different topic, that's fine. But I've been
I'm sure you want to go to a different topic.
No,
I don't want to go to a different
I'll
topic.
wait for
I'm
you
pretty
all
sure
day.
you do want to go
I
to
could
a
wait
different
20
topic.
minutes
Good.
until I
Okay.
could wait here forever until you finally pull something up to prove that that they can be 10 times smaller than the object. But I don't care. I just don't want to hold up the time. We're
Well,
just
yeah,
waiting
we
here
could
for
go.
you to pull something
Well,
evidence
put it
up.
like this. I mean, it's not necessarily necessary to have a total 100% scale, because the fact is your original point was that the shadow can't be smaller.
Okay, so you don't need accurate
that was your
results, but you
that
could
was your original point.
you prove
Now,
your
this way we can
hypothesis with inaccurate results
no,
of
no,
other
no,
demonstrations. That's fine.
so your original point was that the shadow can't be smaller. I've shown that the shadow can be smaller. Your second point was that the shadow is not a factor of an amount smaller. So this is what you can do. Since I've already shown that the shadow can be smaller if you have a large enough light source, you yourself can take a ball, and you can get high enough from the ground to where the umbra can be small enough to prove your point. So I'm pretty sure even if I found that video, I can't remember off the top of my head how far the line was anyway. So I'm pretty sure you can still say, well, the shadow is not as small as the moon relative to the moon shadow relative to the size of the moon. But what I have shown is that the shadow can be smaller than the object, which what you said is impossible, and still is the mirror of the object and making the object be far away from the light source. If your contention is that, so for instance, going back to this video, and I'll share it real fast to point out what I'm talking about, because the fact is, in science, not everything will be done 100% the scale, but sometimes the principle can be shown. But again, you can if you want to. So all you
Right,
have
but
to
then you
do
just have to
is,
take it on faith that it's real, that without any actual 100% proof that it is real. You just have to have a little bit of faith. You have to throw a little bit of faith in there, a little bit of quackery, a little bit of faith to make
um,
make your model work.
so let me ask you something. Do you think that what you just said right now, do you think that you're accurately representing what I said?
That's exactly what you just said. You said that in science we don't need 100% evidence. We don't need 100% conclusions for the things that we believe. We can just infer that it's real based on inaccurate evidence. That was basically the gist of what you said.
So again, we're not talking about the gist because that involves your interpretation. So I understand that you're interpreting. So what I would ask you to do is not interpret what I say and talk about the gist. What I said was sometimes in science, you don't go 100% to scale. It doesn't have to be 100% to scale, but you can still show the principle. So I didn't say evidence, no evidence. I didn't say no accuracy. I said not everything is done 100% to scale. That is exactly what I said. Another thing I said was you yourself can take a ball and arrange it so that you can go high enough above the earth and you can show. So in other words, let's say if you take a ball, let's say you take a basketball, right? And let's say it's noon. If you're standing on the ground, like for instance, this image here would be similar to that. If you're standing on the ground, right, your ball is so close to the ground, so the shadow, the umbra will be smaller, but it won't be. It'll only be so small because the distance you are from the ground. But if you take that same ball and let's say go up to the second story of a building, then the umbra will be smaller because you're farther away from the ground source. So I've shown that you can have a shadow smaller than the object, which you acknowledged. If
I
your
didn't
contention
acknowledge.
is, say again.
I didn't acknowledge that.
All right. So people could go back to the video and see themselves that you acknowledged. Your contention was that it wasn't 10
No, I
times
said that
smaller.
all of the shadows are larger.
Then where's your evidence of that?
Just look at them. The shadows are larger. What are you talking about?
All right. So again, it seems to be either
I don't know.
you're
You have eyes? I
avoiding
don't understand.
it.
What am I
It,
debating right now? You have eyes? Can
it,
you
se-
look?
it
The
seems to be
shadow is
either
larger in
you're
all the images.
it seems to be either you're avoiding or just not understanding what I'm saying. So I'll repeat this one more time. So when you talk about the shadow of a solar eclipse, there's an umbra and there's a penumbra. So when we're looking at this part of complete, when you're looking at this line that's going across the planet, we're looking at the umbra here. We're looking at the umbra, this little complete dark line in the middle right there. That's the umbra that we're looking at. So that's the area of complete darkness. So that's the one that we're saying is going to be smaller than the line of complete darkness. Now, if you look at that line of complete darkness, it's not covering the entire United States. It's just one line going through the path. That's the umbra. That's smaller than the object. So if we look at this video again, the equivalent of the umbra in this video, when we look at that little example that they gave, the equivalent of that dark line going across the planet during the solar eclipse will be this little circle right here that's smaller. See when they pull it back, that umbra in there. This is the line of totality. So the penumbra may look bigger. I'll give you that. But that's not the line of totality. That's not that dark line that's going across the United States. The umbra is what we're talking about when we talk about the total solar eclipse. So the umbra is small, and that's what I'm illustrating. The umbra is smaller. Now, if you look pulling this ball back, that's why it's the scale. So obviously, this ball is not to scale like if that was the moon and that's the Earth. So, but it's showing that the umbra is going to be smaller than the object. If you, and that's what I was saying earlier, not all scientific experience have to be to scale. It's simply showing the principle. If it's important for you to have the experiment to scale, you can take that ball and go to the top of a 3-story building and then measure the shadow from the top of a 3-story building. And eventually you can get the scale to the point that the umbra will be that many times smaller than the object. Now, do you now understand what I'm saying?
No, the penumbra is the outside, so the penumbra of the eclipse is not even 2,000 miles wide on Earth either.
Well, again, you're not directly addressing my point. So, you know, my point is
Well,
simply that
but that's what you're saying. But that this is your fairy tale universe. I'm
well,
questioning your fairy tale universe.
I see. I
In
mean,
your
I've
fairy
answered
tale
your question.
universe,
I've
in your
answered your
fairy tale
question.
universe, look, the penumbra is always going to be the same size. Looks like I guess that maybe I could correct my original statement. Maybe you would be correct that the umbra whatever would be would appear to be smaller, but then you have this penumbra, which could probably be what I really mean. Umbra would always be the same size. It can't be smaller than the object.
Well, I actually didn't really look into the penumbra myself. Go ahead and present your evidence about the penumbra, and I'm happy to look at it of your understanding of the penumbra.
Present my evidence of the penumbra to look up the size of the penumbra of
You're
the
making
lunar
claims
eclipse.
about the penumbra. I didn't make claims about the
That's
penumbra.
but you
I
could
was
just
talking
look
about
at it
the
right
umbra.
there, bro. You could look at it right there, buddy. Right
Which
there.
is
You're just looking at it. The penumbra is not smaller than the object.
right. So
Is it
again, you're
not?
talking about something other than the
Okay, so is
point
there
that
a
I made.
2000? Is there a 20? Is there a what is it? 2158 mile penumbra of the shadow of the moon on the Earth?
So this is what I'm not going to allow to happen. I'm not going to allow
Oh,
you to derail the conversation to a point that I'm
derail.
not making.
I'm
Yeah, you're
addressing you
derailing.
exactly what you're saying.
My point. I said this very. I said I drove 3 hours to get to the total solar eclipse. That's what I did. The total solar eclipse is equivalent to the umbra of a shadow. The total solar eclipse that I saw, which means the umbra of the shadow that I saw, matched perfectly what was illustrated here. You said that the umbra has to be bigger. I've demonstrated that that's not the case. You said that it's a matter of scale. I've shown in a video how when
I don't
the
think I even
lady.
said the word umbra in my question. I said shadow.
So you said that the umbra can't be smaller.
I never
I
said umbra.
showed you
Stop
that
putting words in my mouth. I never said
I'm
umbra.
sorry. When the you said that the eclipse shadow, the shadow can't be smaller. I pointed out that the umbra. I pointed out that the umbra was smaller. You said, well, it's not this many times smaller. I demonstrated in the video that as she pulled the ball back, the umbra got smaller. So it was important for you to have exactly the scale. You can go to the top of a building and you can make the umbra that small. You started talking about the pin number. You did. You said the pin number has to be the pin number has to be this big or whatever. So you present your evidence what you're saying about the pin number. I was talking
That's your
about the
claim.
umbra.
I'm not going to do the science for you. That's your claim. That's
Well,
on you.
I think I've
I
said
gotta
all
do.
I
I
needed
gotta
to
do
say.
your work. I gotta prove your fairy tale
I
work. Doing
presented.
your
Oh no,
science.
I presented my point
Screw
100%.
that shit.
I presented my
I'll be
point
chilling
100%.
here playing video games. I'm not gonna
Hold
deal
on.
with that crap.
Sounds good.
That's your claim. That's your claim. You prove it. I don't have to
I
prove
mean, at this point, I guess
that here,
we could
man.
take questions from the audience or something. I mean,
No.
you presented
I got
your
some
evidence.
questions for you. No. I'm not gonna just.
Okay,
I'm not your questions. I got some
go ahead.
questions for you. Okay, so prove that an atmosphere can be held to the Earth with gravity, not electromagnetism, which is 10 to the 36 times more powerful than gravity. Is absolutely absurd. It's actually despicable that Fight the Flat Earth use electromagnetism to prove what anything that gravity could even remotely do. Can you prove that an atmosphere can exist in a perfect vacuum, 10 to the negative 17 torr vacuum by gravity?
Hold up. Prove that. Prove what again?
Prove that an atmosphere can be held to any object of any mass to the Earth, to that object, excuse me,
Hmm.
by gravity against a 10 to the negative 17 torr vacuum.
Against
Just exactly what
two.
your model is.
Okay. So your question is prove that an atmosphere. Your question is prove that an atmosphere can be held like the globe against a 10 to the negative what?
17.
A 10 torr vacuum.
Sure.
Okay. So first, present your evidence that we're saying that there's a 10 to the negative torr vacuum pulling on the atmosphere.
Is the vacuum of space not 10 to the negative 17? Now we're arguing the value of the vacuum of space now. And now you don't agree that space is 10 to the negative 17?
You
Torr?
said that they unrelated that. So where's your evidence and where are you
We
getting
gotta
that
go to
from? And then
NASA. Okay,
I can
let's see.
respond.
Torr value. Let's Google torr base. Pressure in outer space, 1.46 times negative 18. There's it right here. Hypertextbook.com.
I mean, you have to share it or something. I mean, so I can
All
see
right,
what you're
I'll share
talking
it.
about.
I mean, you could literally just Google exactly what I just said, and I gotta screen share and. I mean, like we're just arguing values, and you're just not even agreeing that the values are there. Like, can you at least accept that this value is correct?
So you want me to accept without evidence what you're saying? Is
Well,
that
no,
what's going on?
I'm looking. It's evidence right here. Everybody in the chat knows this. This is
Oh, I'm
not
sorry.
even a
Maybe I didn't see
debate.
where you posted it. What
It's
did you
not even a
post it?
debate, buddy. This is your model. I'm googling right now the Tor value of space. That's all I did. Tor value of space. I googled it right there. It says hypertextbook.com. 1.46 times 10 to the negative 18. Now you're just gonna say, oh well, I don't believe that the value of
So you
space
looked
is
up
that much.
Tor
That's just a
value
load
of
of shit.
space, pressure in outer space. Right
Come
now.
on, man.
All right. So I looked up Tor value of space. The first link I found said pressure in outer space. Pressure can result from da da da. In comparison, the pressure in outer space may be in order of 10 to the negative 12 torr. The pressure in outer space, right? Right. So what is that's talking about pressure? It's saying that there's pressure in outer space. I'm not seeing where it's saying there's a vacuum pulling.
10 to the negative 17 is essentially zero pressure. It's just using that
So
value
show us those
to demonstrate.
calculations. That's not my understanding of math. I mean, it's been a while since I took math. My understanding is that it'll be a very small decimal, but I could be wrong.
Right.
Where's your calculation showing the strength of that vacuum? Like show us that so I could be on the same
Oh,
page.
come on, man. Like, you see what you're doing? Now you're just shifting the goalpost to where, like, this I have to be like this mathematics to show you the exact formula for the pressure of space. You're just looking at it right there. Can you at least agree that the pressure of space far exceeds any Torr value that we could reach on Earth with the most powerful vacuums that we have on Earth? That's a fact. NASA has the world's most powerful vacuum. They can't even come close to the vacuum of space.
So what you're
Even with
showing is
let's say even with NASA's vacuum of space value, do you think that you can possibly go into NASA's giant vacuum chamber that they have and put like an object in there and try to have an atmosphere adhere to that object in the vacuum? What do you think is going to happen?
right.
It's
Right.
going to
So
it's going to
we still didn't pass your question. This is my observation, and again, like I said, this is you're saying something new to me. I don't mind looking into something new on the spot. When I look at this, what I'm seeing here, because matter of fact, let me just show the screen so everybody can see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'll go ahead and share one more time. So this is the link that came up when I did the what you said, search Torr value in outer space, whatever, pressure in outer space. Pressure is everywhere. Earth's atmosphere exerts pressure on us right now. Although the pressure at this point on Earth's surface is equal, outer space is a very hostile place because of the low pressure in outer space.
But if you go up.
So I'm talking right now. So I'm going to get back there, but I said I was going to explain what I understand. So I'll do that. Outer space is a very hostile place because of the very low pressure. In outer space, humans have to be trapped in a spacesuit. So this is saying pressure is everywhere. And there's not a vacuum second in space, but there's pressure in space. So when we scroll back up, in comparison, the pressure in outer space may be 10 to the negative 12 torr. So my understanding of math is when you have a value and there's a negative exponential, it ends up being a very, very small decimal. So what they're saying is on Earth, at ground level, there's a pressure of, let's say, 14 psi. But in outer space, there's a pressure of 0.000000123. But there's pressure, not a vacuum. So our model is totally contrary to what you're saying my model is. And I believe that's called the straw man. You tried to get me to hurry up and answer your question. It's upon you saying, and I wrote it down, a vacuum of negative 10 to the 17 torr. That's your model, you said. But our model says there's pressure in outer space. Pressure. There's pressure pushing on us from
It's
outer space.
essentially nothing.
Very small value.
It's essentially nothing whatsoever. There's a gas differential pressure. Do you understand that? That gas goes high pressure gas. High pressure gas goes to lower pressure. Do you not understand that?
Apparently you don't, because you said a vacuum. That's what you said.
Okay, so there's 14.7 psi on Earth, and then in space it's 10 to the negative 12. What do you think is going to happen to the atmosphere of the Earth? It's going to go. It's just going to go right into the vacuum.
I'm not going to let you run away from it. Your question was
run away from what?
Your question to me was prove that there could be an atmosphere held to the Earth against a vacuum of a 10 to the negative 17 torr. That's what you said.
Right.
And you
That's
said
what
that's
exactly
right.
what
Exactly.
right,
That's what
right.
you said. You
That's
said that's
exactly
our
what your
model.
model is. Right.
But I'm showing you that's not our model. We're looking at it right there. What you
How is
told
it
me to
not the
look up.
model?
Our model says that there's pressure, not a vacuum. So
It's a vacuum. Do you not understand that the differential in pressure is a vacuum? If
do
it's
you
if
see
it's
what the
if
word
it's
there
10
says?
psi versus 5 psi, the 5
Do you
psi is
see what
acting
the
as a
word?
vacuum. Do you not understand that? Do you know how vacuum
Apparently you
cleaners
don't,
work?
sir.
Do you know how
Apparently you
vacuum
don't.
cleaners work? Do you know how vacuum cleaners work?
Apparently you don't.
Do you know how vacuum cleaners work? They create a low pressure zone inside the vacuum, and that what that does is it makes the high pressure of the outside go into the vacuum. Do you not understand that? That's a vacuum cleaner. That's what vacuums do. They suck. That's what they do. I don't care what any globe is going to say. Vacuums suck. Yes, they do.
All right,
Absolutely
Wotan,
suck.
we definitely have to give Darryl a chance to respond to all that. So we're gonna hold off just for a
Guy
second.
doesn't even know how to understand how a vacuum cleaner works.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
let's go. How
Okay,
do vacuum
Darryl,
cleaners
I'm
work?
sorry, Wotan. Just go ahead, Darryl, and I promise I've got the mute button ready. We got to give him a chance to respond, Wotan.
Thank you, sir. So what I've shown is that your question itself was based on either, I mean, I can't be sure, or misunderstanding or a dishonesty, because you're asking me a question supposedly based upon globe model, and what you're saying totally contradicts what the globe model is saying. This does not, like you said, a vacuum sucks. This is saying there's pressure pushing. It's a very small amount of pressure, but it's pressure. So your question, supposedly based upon our model, is false. It's an inaccurate
If
question.
what you're saying is true, vacuum cleaners will be impossible.
So what you're showing, sir, is that you have either very little understanding or you're just not being honest. And that goes back to my
No,
five
because
principles of
exactly
flat
what you're
earth.
saying would make vacuum cleaners impossible. Because what a vacuum cleaner is doing, I looked it up right here.
Wotan.
The vacuum cleaner uses an electric motor. And I need to speak. I need to speak. I
I know,
don't
but
give a
he-
fuck. Okay, I don't
he-
care.
I don't mind him
I
speaking.
need to speak. I'm
just
sick
proving
and
my point
tired of
for
you
him, so it
making
don't
him
matter.
speak all the time.
I-
What the fuck,
Wotan,
man?
I'm fine.
You're
Go ahead,
always giving
Wotan.
him the time to talk.
Wotan,
This is so
Wotan.
annoying.
Wotan, you
Can I fucking talk for a second?
you gave a
He's
lot.
fine.
I'm
He's
sick and
fine. Let
tired of
him
this
go.
shit.
Let him
I
go,
know what
James.
he's
He's
gonna
fine.
say.
Let him
I know
go.
what he's gonna say before he even fucking says it.
Well,
You have the floor,
parrot.
sir. Wotan, you go. You got it.
We'll come back.
Fuck, man. Tired of this shit. Vacuum cleaner uses an electric motor that spins a fan, sucking the fucking air in. That's what they do.
Mhm.
Sucking in air and any small particles caught up in it and pushing out the other side into the bag or a canister to create a negative pressure. That's what they do. If it wasn't for the negative pressure, the fucking air wouldn't go anywhere, would it? If you were to open a gas tank with 14.7 psi into the earth, what would happen? Nothing would happen. The gas wouldn't go outside because the gas inside the tank is the same as the outside. What do you not understand about that? If space is 10 to the negative 17 torr and the earth is 14.7 psi positive, how the fuck, what are you talking about? There is a gas differential of pressure. The pressure would go out into the vacuum space. Can you model that, please?
Okay. So I'm understanding your. So we're going to move past the fact that you misunderstood the negative to mean a vacuum, so sucking, and now we understand that this is just a small amount of pressure. Okay. So I understand your point. If you have a high pressure environment, and then you have a low pressure environment, why is the gas not rushing to the low pressure environment? Is that correct?
A differential of 14.7 psi and 10 to the negative 12 is going to be a pretty drastic gas pressure differential.
I agree. Now, I myself have personally seen you in a debate and somebody explained this to you. What is your understanding of what the model says solves for this?
You guys said there's this common line, and the particles, they're just so loose, and they dissipate, and the vacuum is not really doing anything because the particles at the common line, they're very sparse in between. But you know what? It doesn't matter because it's going to be an exponential thing. It's going to happen instantaneously. It's going to be an exponential thing where the gas particles, they're going to be going out into space because there is gas pressure differential. It doesn't matter. It's going to be an exponential decrease of pressure of the atmosphere of Earth going into the vacuum of space. You can't even explain how the atmosphere can possibly even form to begin with on your model. How does the atmosphere? I mean, I don't want to ask you another question on top of another question, but
Then don't. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. Let's stick with the one question.
Well,
okay, then I can ask you another question after that. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's
It's going
finish
to be
this
an
one
exponential
first.
thing, is it not?
I mean, you tell me. You're the one who's saying that it shouldn't be happening. I mean, you said so basically recapping my understanding of what you're saying. The general understanding is when we get to the upper atmosphere, the energy of the molecules there are so small that don't have the kinetic energy to move away from the atmosphere because gravity is holding it here at the bottom. That's why the pressure is so high at ground level, and the higher up you get, there's lower and lower pressure, and eventually you get to the upper atmosphere where there's even less and less pressure. To eventually you get into outer space, and it's simply not enough energy for those molecules to escape. You're saying after that though we're saying that it's some kind of exponential thing and it still wouldn't work. So what's your evidence or experiment or whatever that shows
No,
that
you
wouldn't
need to
work?
model that, buddy. That's on you. That's what happens. Every single experiment on Earth absolutely proves that high pressure goes to low pressure. There's no even reason to even model it. We know that for a fact. I work with gas tanks every day. I know exactly how they work. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. You have a gas pressure, which is under pressure. You open it up, it's going to go seek lower pressure. That's it. That's what happens.
To
Okay.
give you the
So now
benefit
you're
of the
saying that
doubt,
it doesn't happen. You're saying that doesn't happen. Yo, wow, you're in the fairy tale land. You're saying that doesn't happen because gravity does it. Okay, can you model that, please? The burden of proof is on you.
mhm, I see. Well, we've already shown that you are you're making challenges, right? From a position of great ignorance. So apparently your position was that the negative uh, 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 exponential on that number meant it was pulling or sucking, when that's simply not true. Is a very small decimal. So I'm not going to just accept something else you said. Oh, your model says this, and this is the experiment, and this is that. You have to present it. I'm not going to just believe what you say. So if what you're saying is that we have experiments that prove this is not the case, you've already shown that what you thought was going to prove your point didn't prove your point. So you need to go ahead and, because you're the one saying that doesn't work. So you present the evidence
This is
saying no,
funny.
that wouldn't
You're
really
just
work.
exactly.
So
This is exactly what you're doing. You're claiming that I'm saying that I'm simply rejecting, the burden of proof, that I'm trying to shift the burden of proof on you, and then what you're
yes,
doing,
you
you're
are.
just trying to shift the burden of proof on me. So we're just going back
You
and forth.
said
The
it doesn't
fact of
work.
the matter is that high pressure goes to low pressure every single time, no matter what you do, every single time. Team Skeptic showed, absolutely proved in his video. He showed, this hexafluoride or whatever, some super high dense gas. What did they have to do in order to get the gas in there? They had to cover it with a lid, otherwise the gas goes out, right? Because that's what it does. High pressure seeks low pressure every single time. There's no need for me to show you an experiment. Go open a gas tank. Go ahead. There's your experiment. High pressure goes to low pressure. Go open a bottle of carbonated. Go open a bottle of soda. High pressure goes to low pressure. The air goes out. Does it not? I mean, how
Yes,
simple do you want the
yes,
experiment
that's
to
true.
be? I don't understand. You're
Mhm.
saying something that goes against direct observation of natural laws, things that we know for an absolute fact. You're saying, oh no, the gas pressure doesn't go out into the vacuum of space. Oh no, it just stays there. Oh no, it's a magic fairy tale land, in the land of Mordor, where you need to be in order for you to prove it. So your claims are, number one, they are they are unfalsifiable. You can't prove them right or wrong. They're completely unfalsifiable. Number one. Number two, they cannot be scrutinized by the scientific method, because I even asked Red's rhetoric. Oh, how would you do that? He was like, oh, you would need a planet the size of the Earth in order for you to prove it. Well, and there you go. That means that there is no way on Earth, in the real world where I exist. I don't know where you exist, but I exist in the real world. There is no way in the real world to possibly use the scientific method to be able to demonstrate whether that can happen or not. So therefore, number one, your claims are unfalsifiable and unable to be scrutinized by the scientific method. Therefore, they fit the absolute complete definition of a religious belief. There is no distinction between a religious belief and what you believe. No distinction whatsoever. It's the same exact thing.
I hear you, sir. Thank you for sharing. Oh, certainly, certainly. So to give him the benefit of the doubt, it seems to be just the lack of understanding that's causing the problem. So just like what he tried to do earlier when he tried to get me to answer a question about a sucking, saying it's our model when it's not our model. We say there's pressure in outer space, just a small amount. Again, he's trying to get me to refute two different things. So when you're looking at the planet, so I'm gonna show this image here again of the globe from the Himawari satellite. So when we're looking at the planet here, right? You're looking at you're looking at a large body that has a large gravitational pull, that's causing a demonstrable gradient in pressure from ground level to the upper atmosphere. It's a demonstrate even people who go to the tops of mountains, they have to bring breathing equipment and things because the pressure is low. Even people who are in airplanes, it's pressurized. And if there's a breach in the pressure, those things drop down and things because the pressure is so low. Without the breathing mass, you won't be able to breathe because the air is thinner. So it's clearly observable that on Earth there's a demonstrable pressure difference between ground level and upper level, and he demonstrated some understanding of the explanation that when you get to the upper atmosphere, that pressure is so small that gas doesn't normally escape on mass, and that's how we have an atmosphere. He's taking that dynamic in that realm and trying to compare it to gas in one container rushing to an adjacent container. That's two totally different conditions. Um, so that's why I said if you're saying it's impossible on this globe scale because gas rushes from one container to another container, it's up to you to show that. I mean, we're sitting on the earth breathing the air. Obviously, we have an atmosphere. We have pictures of the globe that we've shown. We have pressure gradient on Earth that demonstrates a difference in pressure. The higher and higher it goes, the pressure is less. This is all observable. If you're saying that this experiment that gas moves from one container to another, if you have pressure in, let's say, no gas in the next container, and you remove the barrier between them, if you're saying that proves that this globe is not possible, then show it. But what I'm not going to do is allow you to continue to shift burden on me when you've absolutely presented nothing for your position at all. You presented absolutely nothing. Everything you said was, oh, it's a video I have to look up. I can't find it. Even when I couldn't find the exact video, I looked it up. And when I did look up the website that hey, do this and search for it, I looked it up. Your website showed that you were wrong. So if you're going to say that this is false, then it's up to you to present what you're saying. I'm not going to allow you to have me try to present evidence for your misunderstanding. So again, when we're looking at the globe and the fact that the atmosphere at the higher upper end of the atmosphere is a very very low pressure, and that gravity is keeping those molecules from just flying off. This is completely observable. If you're saying that this experiment in the office or lab somewhere disproves that, I'm happy to see you present that, but you haven't done it yet. So that's all I have to say about that.
The website absolutely, number one, did not prove me wrong whatsoever. If the website proved me wrong, that nothing, we wouldn't be able to breathe. Vacuum cleaners wouldn't work because all a vacuum cleaner is doing is creating a low pressure zone inside the vacuum, which is making the air from the outside rush into the vacuum cleaner. That's all it's doing. So if you're saying now there is
you said
pressure,
sucking earlier, yeah.
there is pressure inside of that low pressure zone, isn't there, Darryl? There is still pressure inside of there. So if there's still pressure inside of there, hey, there's still pressure inside of there. So it would be, so then that means the vacuum cleaner wouldn't work, would it? There is no such thing as absolute zero pressure. I don't even think anything even absolute zero pressure has ever been observed because there's always going to be some one random particle of a gas somewhere. You understand? Like, so it's 10 to the negative 17, I would say, is pretty damn close. I mean, it's
Interesting. I've taught
it's
you that.
absurd.
Maybe that'll help your arguments in the future. Of course, you'll still only could prove the globe
Right,
by
yeah.
talking
So
about it. But
so 14.7 psi, even one psi at the common line, whatever it is, it's going to be an exponential decrease of pressure into the vacuum. It's going to get sucked
then
instantaneously
show that.
by the
Then
vacuum, the
demonstrate
infinite
that. Give
vacuum
us your
space.
evidence of that.
Open a gas tank.
Show that. You're just
Open a gas
talking.
tank. Open a gas tank.
Demonstrate that.
We're
Open a
going
gas
to,
tank.
what we can
I
do
think
is,
I've demonstrated.
I want
Open a gas tank.
to
Did
give,
you ever open a gas tank in
what
your
we
life?
will do is give Wotan, if you're cool with that, we can go to Q&A, but if,
That's fine for me because I only have about 30 more minutes. So, I mean, I think I've presented my points well, and yes, I'm fine with question and answers.
Yeah, not a shred of evidence. As always,
Here you,
my
sir.
questions remain the same for 5 years. No evidence of atmosphere in a vacuum. No evidence of water sticking to a globe. No evidence of dark matter, no evidence of black holes, no evidence of dark energy, no evidence of the Big Bang, no evidence of not any fairy tales. It's absolutely amazing. Not a shred, nothing. There is no science whatsoever in astrophysics, by the way. So astrophysics is not a science.
We
There
are
is no
going
scientific
to
experiments
we
with
are going
And we're
astrophysics.
going to the
we
question
are
from the
going
chat,
to,
right?
It's not a
yes.
science.
So sorry about that.
Right.
I'm just trying to
It's a quack science.
I'm going to
It's a
try
pseudo
to do my
science.
very best. Wotan. Appreciate your passion. We are going to go to the questions, and sorry, I was just trying to keep up with these. I don't know if we'll get to all of them, but we will sure try. So thanks so much for your questions, folks. And first up, we have the Crawdaddy. Thanks for your super chat. They said, coming from a former sailor, the Earth is a globe. Wotan, are you convinced?
Appeal to authority? No, thanks.
Okay, Andrew Stoll, thanks for your super chat. They said, will Wotan please explain why Polaris can't be seen below a certain latitude? How do you like them apples, Wotan?
I don't know. Never been there. I'll check it out.
Gotcha. Okay, short and pithy today. The Jim Tanker, thanks for your super chat. They said, why is Darryl presenting evidence anyway? Wotan has the burden of proof to support his claim.
Absolutely not. I've already demonstrated that the burden proof is absolutely on the globe. I could give you guys an analogy. Let me give it a quick analogy. So if let's say the Earth is 100 times smaller than what it is today, right? And you could literally go out into the beach and you could literally see the curve of the Earth. You could look left and right and you could see that like you're on this giant ball, right? And now somebody comes up to you and like, you know what, man? The Earth really isn't round. Even though you can see that it's the Earth is round and you can see the curve of the Earth, it's really not round. It's actually flat. Well, now the burden of proof is on you, isn't it? Because we could look outside and we can see that it's round, but you're telling me that it's flat. So that the burden of proof would be on you. The same thing like we have in reality. We go outside, you see the horizon is flat, and we don't feel anything spinning. Therefore, if you're going to tell me you're on a round, spinning, flying, soaring, shooting, gyrating, tilting, wobbling, ball Earth flying through the universe at 2.5 miles an hour, 2.5 million miles an hour, the burden of proof is on you. And Darryl has failed to demonstrate that. No scientific experiments whatsoever. Not a single, nothing at all.
All right,
There
we
are no
gotta give
scientific experiments.
short and pithy responses still. We gotta just to try to move through as many of these as we can. Thanks for your question from the Jim Tanker, who says Wotan wah. So I think that was during our small run-in partway through the debate. Fact-based living. If you want to respond to these, you can, Wotan. Any of them, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Fact-based living. Thanks for your super chat. They said you can't have a pressure in the absence of matter. Nearly no matter in space. Oh, okay. So they're saying you can't have a pressure in the absence of matter. There is nearly no matter in space, so a vacuum can't suck. Why is it so hard for Darryl to just say that? I guess that one was for you, Darryl.
Okay, no problem. So I heard him say that you can't have a no pressure with no matter, and there's nearly no matter in space.
Yep.
So according to what you just said, and according to that logic, if you can't have zero pressure if there's matter, or if there's pressure, that means there's some matter, and there's nearly no matter in space, that means there is matter in space. So that means that there is pressure, which matches what we read on that
10
scientific
to the
site.
negative 10 to
So
the negative 17
Hold
is
on, we
pressure.
gotta give him a chance
yeah,
to respond.
It's
We
fucking
have to give him a
hilarious.
chance to
It's
finish.
amazing.
We gotta
It's fun.
let's Darryl. I'll give you a chance to finish or respond,
right,
whichever you prefer.
no problem. And what was the second part of the question? I don't want to accept. I just need to accept what?
They just said, why is it so hard for Darryl just to just say that? So it's,
I mean, I said that in our original discussion that it is just low pressure. I've also acknowledged that if you have a high pressure system next to a lower pressure system, like inside of a lab, and you have a container that has air and a container with no air, and you remove the barrier, it'll rush to the other side. I mean, that's an observable fact. What I observe that flat earth people are either unwilling to acknowledge or unable to acknowledge. And again, from my perspective, is either stupidity, ignorance, delusion, denial, or laziness. They don't want to acknowledge that the globe is a totally different system. So we have a very large body, a very large mass with a large gravitational pull that's pulling the air to the earth, holding the air to the earth. The farther away you get from a gravitational source, the lower the gravitational pull will be. The closer you are to the object, the stronger you'll experience the gravitational pull, evidenced by the fact that the farther and farther away you get from the Earth, the lower and lower the pressure is because the gravity diminishes a bit. When we get to the very, very upper atmosphere, you have an extremely low pressure. Then next thing you know, a no pressure, and that the molecules at the top don't have enough kinetic energy to just fly off and just lose our atmosphere. So these are two totally different systems. A globe with gravity holding this mass of air compared to a small container at on ground level on a planet. Those are two totally different systems. So I'm not going to allow you all to try to equate those two things as if they're the same conditions. They're not. They're two totally different conditions. Now, if you're saying that the fact that um, air inside this container, if we remove the barrier between that container and a container with no air or a low pressure gradient, if you're saying the fact that if we did this experiment in the lab, the air will rush over, and it's wrong that the air is not rushing into outer space, it's up to you to show that, because that contradicts our model. Again, just like Wotan did
Absolutely does
earlier, he
not
tried to get
contradict
me.
our model. You could keep saying it till you're
Hold
blue
on
in the
one
face. It does
sec.
not
We
contradict your
gotta
model.
we
That
gotta
is your
let him
model.
we gotta let him finish, and then I'll give you a chance to respond, Wotan, because we want to give you a chance to respond if you'd like, but it's got to be really short, Wotan. So go ahead, Darryl, if you
So
want to.
yeah, certainly. So our model says, like he was saying, the he called it the whatever line. I'm new to that term myself. My understanding is simply that the molecules at the top, they have very little kinetic energy. They're not going to fly off. That perfectly matches our model. That matches our model with the very little pressure in space, because the gravity is strong enough to keep the molecules here. Again, he said earlier that our model was this, but I showed that it was something else. So I'm not going to let them tell me inaccurately what our model is and then try to get me to defend their inaccuracy. That's not going to happen with me. So everything that's happening here perfectly matches our model, both on the large scale and the small scale. If you're saying that's wrong, I'm not going to accept the premise that for some reason you don't have to present evidence for your claim. So again, for that commenter, if you're saying that's impossible, then present your evidence that it's impossible. Opposite thing is working just fine.
Your model is giant balls of gas floating in a vacuum. That's your model, and that doesn't happen in reality. Sorry.
Gotcha. We next, by the way, want to say a couple of quick house cleaning things. Thanks, Tony Designs and MathPig, as well as some others, but primarily those two. We appreciate them starting our Discord. So if you are in Discord, check us out. That is linked in the description and in the live chat. Tony just put it there. So would love to see you there. I'm like learning the ropes of Discord. I can be cool. Okay, so next, we do have a couple of things regarding the upcoming debate tour. If you haven't heard, Kent Hovind has dropped out of the debate tour, which is a bummer. We were going to have Bosch and Kent Hovind square off, but that won't be happening. So we are still going to have a couple of huge debates, one being we already mentioned at the start of the stream, another one being a flat earth debate between Nathan Thompson and Team Skeptic in person. So hopefully there are no fists flying around. That's going to be a wild one, and hopefully it's a safe and friendly one.
You better cut it out right now or I'll pound you.
But with that, we also want to mention in Dallas, we're looking for a couple things. One, we're looking for a creationist in the Dallas area who's, like you could say, well experienced in the debate world to go against Aaron Ra, because the opponent for Aaron Ra actually isn't able to make it on the date that we had hoped for. And so if you know of any creationist names in the state of Texas even, we would love to welcome them to a debate with Aaron Ra. So that's going to be a big one in Dallas. And we also want to know if you happen to have any church connections or building connections. We've done it at churches before in terms of our in real life debates. If you know of any buildings that we could do the debate at in Austin, we're picking around ideas, but frankly, we haven't found a venue that we thought like matches exactly what we're looking for. So please do shoot us an email or just say something in the chat, and I will check that out. If you just tag me with an @modern-day-debate chat on chat or in Discord, wherever, email. We are looking for both creationist opponent for Aaron Ra as well as a venue in the Austin area for that Matt Dillahunty debate with inspiring philosophy Mike Jones. So thanks for that. Next question. Appreciate your patience, folks. Morton Nielsen, thanks for your super chat, who said, James, when are you going to do a stream in a bikini? We all secretly want that. That's very sweet, Steven Steen. I appreciate that. I don't know who that is. It makes you think of Steven Steen, but gosh, you people are sick. Okay, questions. Austin, let's see, we got a Doc Savage. Thanks for your question as well. He said, question for Wotan, why does celestial navigation using a sextant, compass, and timepiece work? And they said when it can only work on a spherical surface.
I would have to look into how that stuff works in order for me to have an opinion on it.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Just looking for, let's see. It's a wild chat today, always exciting. And next up, another question from Flash Gordon. They said, Wotan is God and capable of creating spherical planets.
Incapable? The size, the shape of the planets has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. The shape of the planets in the sky.
Gotcha.
If the objects in the sky were all triangles, does that mean we're on a triangle? No.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Let's see, Ralph Shively, forgive me if I mispronounce it, correct me. Thanks for your question. They said, for Wotan, you claim that a shadow cannot be smaller than the object that it's casted from. What is your evidence for this claim, and how can you prove it doesn't match the moon?
Darryl did a fine job of proving that for me.
Gotcha. And next up, thanks for your super chat. Morton Nielsen said, I am not Stephen, for your information. I appreciate that. Punchy, thanks for your super chat as well. They said, can Wotan convert meters to kilometers?
What was that? You glitched out a bit.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. I'm on the roads. My internet's not as strong as usual, but they said, can Wotan convert meters to kilometers?
Meters to kilometers? I don't know. I'm American. I don't know. I've never heard of a meter or kilometer. I don't know what that is. Sorry.
Gotcha. Thanks so
I only
much.
deal with inches.
You got it, dude. Thanks so much. Next up, appreciate your question. This one coming in from Air Church. They said, how do flat earthers account for atmospheric pressure?
He might not have heard you. You cut out a little bit there, James.
Gotcha. Okay, so the question was, Wotan, this one's for you, I think. How do flat earthers account for atmospheric pressure?
How do flat earthers account for atmospheric pressure, Wotan?
How do they account for atmospheric pressure?
Yes.
That's right. How do flat earthers account for atmospheric
Well,
pressure?
every single thing that we do on Earth shows that you need a container to have pressure. So we're in a contained system. So that's how you have pressure. That's the definition of pressure, is something to press against something else. That's literally the definition of pressure. You can't have pressure without something pressing up against something else. So pressure, if we have pressure, that means we're in a contained system of some sort.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for your question as well from Cynthia Vicious. They said, if Wotan knows what Darryl will say before he says it, excuse me, how was he unprepared with an answer when Darryl brought up the Himawari 8 satellite?
I had an answer. That I seen a rebuttal to the Himawari of a guy doing like a little near forensic analysis into how NASA is getting, where they're getting their data from, and sure as shit, they're getting their data from weather balloons that are flying around the Earth, and then they're just wrapping it around the globe. Same way that they made the blue marble in, what is it, 2012. The guy said, "Oh, we put it to Photoshop. Why? Because we have to. We have to put it in Photoshop." Okay, well then, it's full of shit. I don't understand how people believe these things. It's actually amazing to me how people who claim to be skeptic actually believe this bullshit.
Gotcha. Thanks for your question. They said, or I should say, legendary Sanin 65. We appreciate it. They said, ask Wotan and Darryl, what is the scientific method? Hopefully that was
that to Darryl?
Yes, both of you. What is
Both of us, you can go first.
The scientific method?
Observation, hypothesis, testing, experiments, getting a repeatable result. You don't get a repeatable result, you alter the experiment. have an independent variables, check the results out. If nothing works, get a different hypothesis, and come to conclusion. That's it. And
Gotcha.
there's no science in the globe Earth at all. Zero. It's a
Gotcha.
fantasy.
Sure, and I could add to that. I mean, that sounds pretty accurate of different steps of the scientific method. Making a hypothesis, making observations, doing experiments, getting results. Um, I would also say the scientific method is making sure that um, our observations or peer reviewed to make sure that they're not just um, inaccuracies are made up. So peer review is a big part of science. Making sure that um, that there's evidence to support our position. Another big part of science and the scientific method overall is predictability. So that one thing that scientists do that I noticed that flat earthers never do, I've never seen them do even attempt yet. Let me give an example. Like when they was understanding the way gravity works and like Newtonian gravity and the rotation of the planets, they started to make predictions about where the planets would be or should be at a certain period of time. And when they're and initially some of their predictions didn't match. And when they when they realized that the predictions wasn't matching, that the revolution of this particular planet wasn't matching what they predicted, they started to hypothesize what could be the case. And one of the things they surmised was that if another planet was right there, the gravity of an additional planet would account for the perturbations of this planet's revolution. And that's how they found, I believe, it was the planet Uranus, because Uranus was having an impact on relative planets, and it impacted their prediction, which means they had to include another variable or let them know another variable was there. So another very prominent part of science is that when they come up with a hypothesis and they do experiments to test that hypothesis, and they come up with results that support that hypothesis, they also make predictions upon that hypothesis and then see if those predictions are accurate. And that's another way that they could establish whether those conclusions are accurate because of the predictive power. That's one of the reasons why I brought forth the predictions of the solar eclipse, because the predictions of when, where, size, shape, time frame of a solar eclipse matches the experiments that have been done and the observations that have been made around the globe. All that supports the strength of the globe position. So, what I would challenge any flat earth person to do, and they haven't done it yet, I've actually made a video that's called, it was like a flat earth challenge. I challenge you all. We have centuries of predictions. Make just 10 years of predictions with your flat earth model and show us how you predict the next solar eclipses for the next 10 years, how you predict the next lunar eclipses for the next 10 years, predict where they're going to be, predict the size of the shadow, both the umbra and the penumbra, predict how long it's going to last. You do that and show us exactly how you do that with your flat earth model and with the placement of how you say the sun should be in with this, you know, globe or whatever, not globe, but dome or whatever is holding us. You make that prediction and then we can compare and see. But I'm pretty sure they're not going to even try it. And of course, if they do, they don't even have a model to really base it on. But yeah, so what you said, observation, experiments, results, hypothesis, as well as prediction and peer review. And so yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Next, we have Punchy. Thanks for your super chat. We'll be quick. We've got about 8 minutes left. They asked, does Wotan know how many feet? Did I ask this? Forgive me if I already asked it. How many feet are in a mile?
No, I'm an idiot. 1+1 is 2. I don't know.
Gotcha. Thanks. Okay. Morton Nielsen, thanks for your super chat as well. They said, always a good cause. So even if you host silly people like Wotan, money goes to a good purpose. Have some. That's nice of you. And Morton, I'm sure Wotan, you guys are good buddies. So we appreciate that. Thanks for your super chat. Logan16, forgive me. I don't know. I think that's maybe Chinese at the start. I don't know it, but happy to learn it. And they say, poor little Wotan. Wotan, any response?
Poor little global who has not a shred of scientific evidence whatsoever for anything that they believe. I feel so bad for you guys. It's really sad.
Wotan on the warpath today. So thank you for that. And next up, just try to squeeze in as many as we can here. Legendary Sandin, we got that one, I think. Yep. Danny Peterson, thanks for your question. They said, by the way, James, can you ask Darryl to copy, quote, Blue Marble 2.0 and turn it around 180 and about 1 o'clock, it's written in the sky, quote unquote, sex in capital letters. Does that happen by chance? I'm confused by that one.
I know what he's referring to. I've seen videos or people make claims that like the this blue marble data set where this satellite, I believe it was called the Terra satellite, went around the Earth several times and took various pictures of the Earth. And basically, my understanding is this composite image forms the backdrop of many satellite images. Like let's say they take an infrared image on the night side of the planet, they might use this default backdrop to support that image. And by the way, Wotan, a lot of loud typing is coming through. If you could
Yes.
maybe mute yourself
I'm sorry, guys.
or
Sorry.
something.
That's all right.
No problem. So one of the things I've seen them said is that these photos are all photoshopped, and apparently somebody took a Photoshop image. I mean, took a image of the globe that they said was photoshopped, and you turn it around and it looks like there's sex written in the clouds. Um, so and so he's referring to that. And what was his question at the end of that?
The last part was there is written in the sky capital sex in quotes, and they say, does that happen by chance?
Well, put it like this: I myself have not personally looked into that picture. It's very possible that that picture could have been composites put together by an artist, and they snuck in sex. That's possible. I've heard that these different cartoons, different artists, different cartoonists, um, put in you know different things inside their subliminal message. So it's possible that there's some person that did that. It's also possible that there's a cloud formation, a natural cloud formation that we ourselves, because I lay on my back and I look up at the clouds and I see a horse, and I see a dog, and I see a demon and all kind of things in the cloud. So the fact is, there could be natural cloud formations that um, they look like the word sex. So it's possible there could be natural cloud formations that look like the word sex to us. It's possible somebody could have added that in during a Photoshop. So I would say either or. It's possible.
Can we just touch on that a little bit? So you also know that the planet Pluto, the image of the planet Pluto has Pluto's head on it. Like if you Google Pluto, the cartoon character Disney, you could literally plot a particular image of Pluto on the planet Pluto, and it is exact perfect silhouette of Pluto's head. And also how they found on the day of Halloween, they found an asteroid that had like a skull face on it. Like does anybody actually do you actually believe these things? Like what are the odds that NASA finds an asteroid with a skull face on it on Halloween, like a Halloween like pumpkin looking skull face on it? Like do you actually believe any of these fairy tales, or like do you actually look at that with any shred of skepticism whatsoever?
Well, I mean, I have not looked at or seen the Pluto picture myself, or the asteroid picture with a skull, but I'm certainly willing to provide that. It's very possible that that could be there. As I said earlier, we look into patterns and we see patterns and we form patterns out of that. Could be possible somebody shot in.
I understand that, but it's not even a pattern. It's a really astronomically impossible coincidence that a planet of the pattern. That's like a it's an almost impossible coincidence. And then you also have this asteroid, which is also another impossible coincidence. We discovered this brand new asteroid on the day of Halloween, and it's got a skull face on it.
I'm pulling up the picture
We're gonna.
now via screen.
It's just absurd. It's just fairy tales. I don't understand why people just can't look at things in a skeptical way. Just right there it is, perfect. Like, why can't you just like even just remotely like think like that could be it? But no, just the Globers, they just auto believe everything. Everything they have to automatically believe because they see it. Just because NASA says it, auto believe. There is no skepticism with atheism. Nothing. They believe everything.
Awesome. So
Yeah,
I'm
not
looking at that
skeptics.
picture of Pluto. I can certainly see that. I can certainly see how somebody can see a face of Pluto there. I mean, so your position is that because I can make out what could be a face of the cartoon Pluto, that means it's fake.
Of course. What are the odds of that?
Oh, wait, why
Or we
is
could
Has
just
to be fake.
agree to disagree there.
It's an astronomically impossible coincidence.
I hear you, man.
gotcha? We
Uh,
have a couple of quick. If you have maybe a couple of minutes, Darryl. If you have to go though, I know you did say that you have to be sure that you're on.
Let's do a half 15 more minutes. I'll be
Okay.
good.
We do a couple. B-Ball for Life, thanks for your super chat. They said, Wotan is 10 to the negative 17th a negative number.
no, it's a decimal. I
Got
think
At
it's
first, you thought it was a
negative
negative
7.
number, though, right?
No, it's a decimal. It's what
Well,
is it? It's the opposite. With a positive exponential would be 10 with 17 zeros after, and the negative would be zeros before it.
Gotcha. Thank you for your super chat as well from B-Ball for Life, who said, Wotan, why doesn't the air at the bottom of Mount Everest ever rush up to the top because of its low pressure?
Because there's a gradient and it's a dynamic system. And that does happen on the beach also, by the way. So the cold air on the beach rushes to the air on the rushes to the beach, to the shore, because the air on the shore is hotter and less dense. And you have the cold air. That's why when you go on the beach, it's very breezy, because this constant change of intermingling gas pressures is just, that's exactly what wind is. That it's just gas rushing to lower pressure.
Gotcha. Next up, thanks for your super chat, Loken16. They said, does Wotan believe in God?
I was an atheist I was one of the most vehement, vigilant atheists for my entire life. I listened to black metal, death metal. I actually had a very adamant position against the notion of there even being a god. I was a Christopher Hitchens type atheist, anti-theist. Binge watch atheist experience television shows on YouTube all the time, and I was always looking for the proof of God, never found it. But if there is one single proof of there being a creator, it would have to be that the earth is flat and motionless, and that the stars and the sun and the moon and the planets and the galaxies are all orbiting over our heads. There's just no other proof on the world that can prove that there is a creator other than that fact. That's it. That's the game set match. There is a creator.
Gotcha. We appreciate that. Next up, maybe just a few more if we can. Nathan Ormond, thanks for your patience. Their question was, can Wotan explain balancing forces?
Balancing forces.
That's right.
I don't know exactly what that means.
I have to be honest. Um, it's well, let's see. Well, maybe his next question will bring to light. They said, does the Earth's gravitational field exert a force on matter in the atmosphere?
Does what create a force on matter in the atmosphere?
Does the Earth's gravitational field exert a force on matter in the atmosphere?
I don't believe in gravity. I think it's all total quack science. Not a shred of evidence for it. Sorry.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. And next up, Nathan Ormond. Thanks for your question. They said, what would falsify Wotan's position on that the Earth is flat?
Was that towards Darryl?
That was for you.
What would affirm the position that the Earth is flat?
No, what would falsify that position?
Falsify it that the Earth is flat. Well, uh, it's a tough one, because I've become extremely pragmatic over the years. Like, with all the deception in the world and the media. That's why I don't watch TV shows. You see all this propaganda, agenda pushing, and all these TV shows and movies and media, and it's just, I've really become extremely pragmatic, and like in order for me to prove that the Earth is round, I don't know, probably have to go up and see it myself, man, or like some type of way, shape, or form. I don't even know what kind of scientific experiment you could show to prove it, but like just some type of concrete 100% scientific experiment that absolutely 100% proves that the Earth is round. I don't know what kind of scientific experiment you could devise to do that, but it would have to be something of that nature.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much. And I think that's it for questions today without repeating any. So we appreciate let's see. Oh, actually, this is interesting. Nathan Ormond also asked, Wotan, what is the strongest argument for or a globe Earth?
What is that? You did that a little bit.
They said,
What is the strongest argument for a globe Earth?
The strongest argument for the globe Earth.
Hmm.
I don't know. I can't really think of any. For me, like I said, the the fundamental nature of the globe Earth is that you have water adhering to the exterior of a shape by gravity alone. Team Skeptic shows me a video, and it had nothing whatsoever to do with gravity at all. It's actually very shameful that he did that. Even his global friends are probably laughing at him because what he showed was not a demonstration of gravity at all. It was a demonstration of cohesion of water molecules and surface tension. So when I ask globers for evidence of their belief, the evidence that they provide is not a scientific experiment, number one, and number two, it's not a demonstration of what they believe, which is also what Fight the Flat Earth also showed with the electromagnetism, which has nothing whatsoever to do with gravity. So, and those are the two biggest debunkers of flat Earth on YouTube, and they can't provide me any evidence for their claims. So, what it is funny, they actually affirm my flat Earth position far more than ever before. Now I'm like it's absolutely definitely flat if they can't prove that it's round.
Gotcha. We have another question from Morton Nielsen. Thanks for your super chat. They said, Wotan, a bird flaps its wing to fly. If it stops flapping its wings, why does it fall down if there is no gravity?
Your volume's going really low, buddy.
He said, if a bird flaps his wings to fly, if it stops flapping its wings, why does it fall to the earth?
Why does it fall?
Mm-hmm.
Because it
If it
has
stops
mass and it
flapping its wings.
falls. Because it has mass and it falls. That's just what happens.
Gotcha. Next up, thanks for your super chat or your question, Mr. Otto Pants. He said, has Wotan ever been to the southern hemisphere?
No.
Gotcha. Okay. So with that, thanks so much, folks. I want to say we really appreciate all of your, let's see. We do appreciate all of your guys' questions, and it's been a true pleasure. Want to let you know, if you can, technically the only rules, because I just saw a small spat in the live chat right now. We usually only erase or ban hate speech, and then we do ask, like, it's nice if people can be respectful, but we do ask, sometimes people are going to be cranky, sometimes they're going to be mean, sometimes they're going to make fun of Wotan's appearance, and we can't stop that. So just kidding, Wotan. But the point is, we do ask if people are cranky. We just ask if people can try to be more, as stoic as possible about it. Just like, who cares what they say, because we try to only. So sorry that I'm not very loud. Sorry about that. We only try to ban hate speech. So I just want to let you know that if there are people that are, even all caps, if you guys can do me a favor, even all caps, it's like, it's not a big deal if they're in all caps. Like, we just want to try to look out for hate speech. That's what we're trying to completely get rid of. So with that, we are thankful you guys are here. It's been a true pleasure. Thanks so much, Darryl and Wotan, for being here.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for having me here. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much, Darryl. Even though we got a little heated, thank you very much for
you got a little
heated.
I was cool the whole time.
Yeah, I got heated. I always get it's my fault. I'm sorry.
we had one last.
We can agree on that.
One last came in. Wotan, thanks for your super chat, B-Ball for life. They said, Wotan, how is there 24 hours of sun and 24 hours of darkness during a certain part of the year in Antarctica?
I've already addressed this in my video with my debate with Fight the Flat Earth. Every single video that you see of the 24-hour Antarctic sun, it's edited. You see the edits, you see the cuts, you'll see like a one frame, one cloud here, and then the very next frame there'll be a different cloud somewhere else. It's just fake. That's all. It's totally fake.
Gotcha. Well, it's been a pleasure, folks. Both of the speakers are linked in the description. It's been a true pleasure to have them. And we'll let you know, yes, you can check out more content from both of these guys in that description box. And it's been a pleasure.